Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest stories in tech, maybe in the entire economy, the massive disconnect between how Wall Street sees NVIDIA and how its CEO, Jensen Huang, sees the future. It's really a tale of two realities. On one side, you've got analysts who are, forecasting pretty cautious, flatlining growth, and on the other, you have a vision for a whole new industrial revolution. Okay, so let's get right into it with Huang's most wild, most audacious claim. He's basically saying we are all completely underestimating the coming demand for AI. See, it's not just about asking a simple question and getting a simple answer anymore. The new AI models, they actually think, they reason, they do a little research, they self-correct, all before they give you a response. And that thinking process, it takes an absolutely exponential amount of computation. In the AI world, we call this inference.
And this isn't just some big, flashy number for a slide. This is the entire foundation for a multi-trillion-dollar shift in the global economy. Huang truly believes this is a new industrial revolution. So, the big question, the one we're going to unpack, is this. Is his vision of a billion-fold increase in demand a real glimpse of the future, or are we just watching the biggest bubble in history inflate?
To really get a grip on the scale of his ambition, we first need to understand the bedrock of his argument. He thinks this crazy, unprecedented demand isn't just coming from one place. Nope, it's coming from three huge, unstoppable trends that are all hitting at the same time and reshaping everything.
And here they are. First off, Moore's law is basically dead. The old way of doing things, general-purpose computing, just can't keep up anymore. That's forcing a multi-trillion-dollar refresh of every data center on the planet to a new style, accelerated computing. Second, the biggest players on the internet, the hyperscalers, they're already swapping out their old systems for AI to power things like their recommendation engines. And third, a completely new market is just popping into existence to augment human work with AI.
So how does Huang even put a number on that third market? Well, he frames it as augmenting the $50 trillion slice of global GDP that right now is powered by human brains and human labor. His argument is actually pretty simple. If a $10,000 AI can make your $100,000 a year employee twice as productive, what company in the right mind wouldn't make that investment at a massive scale?
Now, when you start throwing around numbers that big, of course you're going to attract some skepticism. And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict. So let's tackle the three biggest doubts about NVIDIA's future and really dig into how Huang answers the charge that this is all just a temporary boom.
This slide just lays out the divide perfectly. On one side, you have the skeptics. They're worried a supply glut is coming. After this initial gold rush, that cheaper chips from competitors are going to eat NVIDIA's lunch, and that some of this crazy revenue growth is just, clever financial engineering. But Huang's rebuttals are just as direct. He basically says people are totally misunderstanding the scale of this transition.
On that fear of oversupply, Huang's answer is basically, we haven't even started yet. He argues that until every last general-purpose computer, every recommender engine, every content platform on Earth has been fully converted to AI, the industry is still just in build-out mode. He thinks we are years, maybe many years, from even getting close to saturation.
Okay, now, to fight back against the threat from cheaper competitors, Huang makes this just startling claim that seems to defy all logic. He says a competitor could literally give their chips away for free, and it would still be a terrible financial decision for a customer compared to buying NVIDIA's more expensive system. I mean, how is that even possible?
Well, the secret sauce here is something called total cost of ownership, or TCO. Look, the cost of a data center, the land, the power, the buildings, that can be $15 billion no matter what chips you put inside. So if NVIDIA's system delivers 30 times the performance for every watt of power, which he claims Blackwell does, that same $15 billion building can now generate 30 times the revenue. All of a sudden, the initial cost of the chip is just a rounding error compared to the massive, massive opportunity cost of leaving all that money on the table.
And finally, we get to the most cynical accusation of them all, round-tripping. It's basically a type of financial engineering where a company invests in its customers, who then turn around and use that same money to buy the company's products. It creates this artificial loop of revenue that looks great on paper but doesn't have any real economic substance behind it.
Huang's response to this is really simple. He says, look, these are two completely separate things. He argues the chip sales are being driven by real, organic, absolutely explosive demand from customers. The investments, on the other hand, are just smart, opportunistic bets on companies he thinks are going to be the next multi-trillion-dollar giants. One is a product sale, the other is a strategic equity investment, period.
So with those skeptical arguments on the table, Let's pivot and see how this all builds into what NVIDIA believes is its unbeatable competitive advantage, its moat. And it's not just about having the best chip, it's about a whole system designed to keep them light years ahead of everybody else.
The first part of that moat is this technical philosophy they call extreme co-design. Since Moore's law can't give us those huge performance jumps every year anymore, they have to innovate on everything at once. This isn't just about bolting parts together. They are redesigning the GPU, the CPU, the networking chips, the switches, and all the software, all at the same time so they work together like one perfectly integrated, super optimized organism. This kind of full-stack approach delivers performance leaps, like a 30x gain from one generation to the next, that are just impossible if you're only trying to improve one little piece at a time.
And then they execute this strategy at an absolutely blistering pace. NVIDIA has now moved to a relentless one-year cycle. They are announcing a new, more powerful platform every single year. This cadence is designed to keep up with that exponential AI demand curve while also making it pretty much impossible for any competitor who might take years to design a single chip to ever catch up.
The second part of the moat is just sheer, mind-boggling scale. And it's all built on a foundation of trust. I mean, what other company has customers that are willing to place $50 billion orders for an architecture that hasn't even been fully battle-tested yet? That's just incredible faith. And that faith extends down to their supply chain, which pre-builds hundreds of billions in parts on that same promise. And then you have the raw engineering insanity of it all, creating systems that can make 500,000 GPUs work together as a single, coherent supercomputer. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra of 1 million geniuses at once.
So what does this all lead to? This is where Huang zooms way out, from all the technical details to connect NVIDIA's dominance to a future vision for the entire global economy, and of course, the company's place in it. He boldly predicts NVIDIA will be the world's first $10 trillion company. But he's very clear that this won't be as a chip maker. He says people fundamentally misunderstand what they do. He argues that NVIDIA is an AI infrastructure partner. They're the company that builds the factories for the 21st century's most important product, intelligence itself. And why this matters on a global scale is this concept he calls sovereign AI. He believes that in the very near future, every single country is going to need its own AI infrastructure. Why? To produce its own intelligence, to encode its own unique culture and values into its AI, and to secure its own economic future. He sees AI infrastructure becoming a fundamental piece of national utility, just as essential as having a power grid or a telecommunications network. And that leaves us with one final, really provocative thought. Whether you're a skeptic or a true believer, if Jensen Huang is even partially right about the scale of this technological shift, about AI augmenting a $50 trillion market, then what we've seen so far, it's not the peak of some bubble, it's just the very beginning of the revolution.